Welcome back to Talk Forsyth with Jeff Evans. I'm here today with a good friend of mine, Maria Keller with the Forsyth Law Firm. Hi, Maria. How are we doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So why don't you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit more about yourself and how you started this firm?
Okay. I'm a almost 27-year resident of Forsyth County. Moved here with one kid. I raised 3 kids here. So I was basically a stay-at-home mom most of that time until about 2009 when my kids got old enough to be out of the house all day. I needed to earn some money and needed to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, even though being a mom was the most important thing.
Right.
They didn't need me anymore as much as they did. So I'm like, I got to do something else. So my youngest child had special needs. So I thought, I might be a great person to represent kids with special needs in the legal field, which is kind of a wild idea, being a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And I had a bachelor's degree in English that I got back in 1993.
Okay.
So I thought, I'm just going to take the LSAT and see what I can do. And I feel like it was in God's plan for me because I passed, got accepted into law school, and I'm like, it started kind of falling into place.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to pay for law school, but I got student loans, which I was not expecting to get. So it kind of all lined up, and I went to law school and started in 2009, graduated in 2012, and passed the bar on my first try.
Yeah.
When I was 43 when I went to school. So it was kind of crazy looking back, but I just was inspired. It all worked out. And then when I graduated, I started my own law firm here in Cumming. I knew, with my lifestyle and taking care of my family came first, and the responsibilities there, I would not be able to work at big law and work those ridiculous hours. So I worked for myself out of the gate. The first 10, 11 years, I did a lot of family law, a lot of guardian ad litem work, a lot of juvenile work. But I've always done estate planning and special needs life planning as part of my practice.
Right.
And so that's kind of evolved now to where I wanted to get out of litigation. Family law, as much as you try to stay out of court and try to settle your cases, eventually you are going to have to go to court.
Yeah.
And it's very contentious, very stressful, and it's just not what I was cut out to be, the kind of lawyer I was cut out to be. Even though I did well and I did a good job for my clients, it just wasn't feeding my soul. Mm-hmm. So about a year ago, I decided to get out of litigation and do what's called a transactional practice, which is, for me, is real estate closings, estate planning, and special needs life planning.
Okay. So real estate is very different than the family law itself. So tell us why real estate? What kind of what transitioned within your life and your mind to transition you into that different field?
So, I started law late in life. I started earning money late in life. So I was really interested in growing my assets for retirement and to leave to my family. And real estate's a great way to do that. My mom actually, way back in the 70s and 80s, had invested in some real estate in Atlanta. I grew up in Dunwoody, so she actually bought, it's the piece of land on, I think it's where Upper Hembry hits Roswell Road in Alpharetta. That corner lot, she bought this little old farmhouse there. I don't know what year it was. It had to be like 1980.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she sold it a few years later, and I believe that hospital bought that. So she made great money on that. So I knew from that experience, and she did some more investments over my teenage years, and she did very well. So I knew that investing in real estate was a great way to make money without having to go to work every day. She raised 6 kids, and she made money doing the investments in real estate. So that was a big example. And to me, just thinking about what I want in my life, they're not making any more land. That's something you can own. Once you own it, pretty much no one can take it away from you. For the most part.
For the most part, for this conversation.
Yeah, for the purposes of this conversation, pretty much no one can take it from you. And I also, some of my goals for retirement was I wanted to have a mountain house and I wanted to have a place at the beach, and, all that's real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually do have a place in the mountains that I've acquired, over time. It's not built yet, but I do own the land.
You have the land.
Yeah. So it was part of my personal goals in life. And when I started down that track of looking to invest for myself, I thought, well, this is a great opportunity in Forsyth County, especially, to add to my practice. And because I'm interested in it. And, I love dealing with the people and the investors. And it's just something that it sparks my interest.
So can you tell the maybe some of the new home buyers out there exactly where you come in with it in regards to the closing process?
So I'm a little bit unique in that I network with a lot of real estate agents. Most closing attorneys, you do not hear from them, see them, meet them until you sit down at the closing table. I want to have repeat customers. I want to build relationships with my clients and with the people that send me clients.
Right.
So you will probably, if you're serious about buying a property here and you work with one of the real estate agents that knows me, that I work with, you'll probably hear my name before you even put a contract on the house. And when you do put a contract on the house, if they choose my firm, which, I hope they do, because the real estate agent fills out the contract and that determines which firm does the closing.
Mm-hmm.
As the minute I get the contract, I will call all the parties involved, introduce myself, thank you for the business. They will start getting some email information requests. And part of what we do, we pay for a program called Qualia, which is like a platform. It's like a dashboard. And every party to the transaction can have their own personal login and see everything that's going on, from this document is signed, title has been requested, title has been approved, here's the title document. And there's actually a timeline that shows on your personal dashboard where we are in the process of the case. You'll see every document that's there. You'll have the contact information for every other person involved in the case, and the closing dates, and you'll just have, it's very transparent. So you will know everything from day one. And if you can't find something on Qualia, you can absolutely call me or call my office, and we will pick up the phone. There's a person that will answer the phone. It won't get to, it might go to voicemail, but we don't have an electronic answering system.
Sure.
An actual human answers the phone.
That's exciting.
I know.
No AI here, right?
Right, exactly. And we'll answer your question. So we really feel like building relationships with our clients is super important. And we also feel like that sets us apart from a lot of the other people that do this.
Yeah, I mean, the software alone, I think, is a great idea, especially when you're purchasing a home. You're very excited and you're ready to move in, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. So having that kind of assurance that the process is moving along is a good thing. And also it keeps people from having to call you every 2 seconds wondering what's happening.
Yes.
Which obviously frees up your time so that you can get out and network and bring in more business.
You can imagine there's probably at least 6 or 7 people involved in the whole process. They all can log in. They all can see everything that's going on. And there's a lot of moving parts, but it's all contained in this one kind of dashboard.
Yeah.
And it's like bank level encryption. So hopefully no hackers can get in. It keeps it very safe and secure, which is also very important in these kind of things.
Yeah. You mentioned networking. So what, this is it's a business show. It's a business podcast. So what do you do for networking out there? What groups are you part of?
So I'm part of BNI BAG, which meets at Lanier Tech on Wednesday mornings at 8:30. It's a really awesome group.
I agree.
People in there really care. I'm had several referrals where people have worked very hard to make sure that, it was a successful referral. And I so appreciate that. Yeah. It's much more than just say, hey, call this person, here's their number. It's an introduction. It's maybe meeting with them for coffee and introducing them in person or with an introductory email. And usually a lot of the people in the BNI group will follow up afterwards more than once. They're just all very caring and very committed to everyone in the group being successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also in the group and definitely still pretty new, but it's quite amazing to see how much of almost a family environment it really has become. There's still some razzing and some humor, which is great, especially on Wednesday morning at 8:30. But I look forward to it every single week, as I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on, because your business is interesting because you have multiple disciplines.
Yes.
Right. So so we talked about real estate. Let's move into estate planning. What is estate planning, and why does anybody need that?
So that is basically wills would be the primary thing people would think about. It's a huge area. So it includes trust, and there's a bazillion different kinds of trusts you can do. It kind of comes down to how many assets you have and what you want to happen to those assets when you pass away. That's kind of the basis of the whole thing. So obviously, a will, you say, hey, this is what I got. This is who I want to take care, be in charge of distributing it. These are the people that I want to get all my stuff. That's like the very basic part of estate planning, but it can be very much more complex. If you get up into the multi-million type of estates, you have to start thinking about federal estate tax. And the federal estate taxes can be as high as 40%.
Wow.
Yeah. So you don't want your hard-earned money that you spent your whole life working on to go 40% of it to go to the government.
No, not this government.
Yeah, no.
Or any government for that matter.
Luckily, the state of Georgia doesn't have an estate tax right now.
Right.
So up until you're up in the multi-millions range, you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you are up there, then there's a lot of really complex estate planning that is pretty critical. Multiple types of trust, things you might have heard of, like a revocable trust, a revocable living trust, a charitable remainder trust, a spousal or marital trust. Like all these things can come into play when you're doing complex estate planning. I don't do a whole lot of that complex stuff because I don't know a whole lot of people that are up in the tens of millions of assets.
Not yet.
Right, not yet. But most people in Forsyth County, they're going to have at least $1 million in assets by the time they pass away. Just owning a home in Forsyth County is $500,000, basically.
If not more, yeah.
Yeah, and if you have two, a married couple that both work, maybe they both have some 401ks, you're easily over $1 million. Right. That's a lot of money. So if you don't have anything, if you have very little assets, a 3 or 4 page $500 will is fine. But if you have more than that and you want to make sure it goes to the people you want it to go to and not to the government and not to an ex-spouse and not to, as some kind of far off relative that's going to come in and make a mess of things after you're gone.
Yeah.
It's super important to do real high quality estate planning, and clarity is key. And then there's also, you want to make sure that my job is to make sure that I've thought of every possible worst case scenario that can happen and then put something in the will to counteract that. So the wills that we do generally are at least like 25 pages long.
Wow.
Which a lot of it is boilerplate. That's a given. But some of it's not. And I do read every single will and go through every single paragraph before we sit down to sign to make sure that everything that person has told me they want to protect is protected.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So what age should somebody be looking at to get a will?
18.
18. There you go.
Yeah. Especially so. We do wills. When we do a will, we do a packet. So for someone who's 18 who doesn't have a lot of assets, presumably, I would basically just do a simple will. But I would definitely do a healthcare directive, and that gives the person who's signing it is giving someone else the authority to make medical decisions for them if they're not able to do it themselves.
Okay.
And if you think back when COVID was really bad, there was people in the hospital that were family members that other family members couldn't get to and couldn't give medical instructions to them because the people in the hospital were adults.
Right.
And they didn't have an advanced healthcare directive where they named another person who could tell the doctors, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. So 18, you're considered an adult. And that really, in my mind, the most important part of the whole package at 18 is that healthcare directive.
Mm-hmm.
And then a third part of the packets that we do for everybody is a durable power of attorney, which is someone who can handle your business if you can't handle it. If you are, and I mean in a way like you're incapacitated or not competent to handle it. If you have a stroke or if you're in a car accident, these people can, the person you name that you choose can pay your bills, can, hire someone to clean your house, all these kinds of things that you would normally do yourself. You've given them the authority to do it. They can write checks on your bank account, to pay your mortgage for you. So, you never know when something could happen to somebody that makes them temporarily incapacitated or permanently incapacitated. So those two powers of attorney cover that instance. And then if, God forbid, you die at a young age, because no one knows our day that we're going to be called from this earth, your stuff will go to where you want it to go to.
So does that include like business partners that are in a corporate relationship?
So with businesses, usually they do an operating agreement, and the operating agreement lays out what happens to that person or that person's stuff in the business. I don't know what the right terminology would be, but their ownership portion of the business that they're responsible for.
Right.
The operating agreement determines that.
Okay.
And I don't really do a lot of that, but it's a practice area I may get into more. We are members of Wealth Council, which is a program it's an estate planning program, drafting program, and like educational type program for estate planning. They do have a business drafting component that I can add on. I haven't done it so far, but I may do it in the future. But you would look for like a business attorney to get something like that drafted.
Okay. All right. So we have real estate law. We have estate planning. How in the world do those two things intermingle? Because I know you've got stories there.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. They, on first glance, you would think these are totally separate, like how they are fitting together.
Yeah.
But they actually do. Most people's biggest asset is their house.
Correct.
And of course, that's the main thing people are concerned about passing on to their family. And there's a lot of tax things going on with there, which I have really great CPA friends that I can't give tax advice. I'm not licensed to do that, but I do have wonderful CPA friends that I can refer clients to, and I always do. Because I can't, I don't even learn the tax rules because I don't want to accidentally give tax advice.
Sure. Yeah. No, definitely not.
But I do know that when it comes to your biggest asset, your biggest investment, there's a lot of tax stuff involved, especially in the best way to pass it on to your heirs. And then it's interesting, lately I've been having like blended families come together. I've actually had two cases like this in the past couple of weeks where a couple gets married for the second or third time. They have children or adult children from their prior marriages, but they're buying a house together. And they want, the other person to live in the house as long as they want to after one of them passes.
Right.
But when the house sells, they want their share to go to their kids and his or her share, the other person's share to go to their kids. And that's happened twice in the past 2 weeks. So there's a way to do that. And I, highly recommend you come talk to me if that's the situation you're in and that's what you want to accomplish. It's kind of too much to go into right here to explain the whole process. But I will say that in my experience, most of the cases or a high majority of the cases in probate court that are contested over a will, it includes a blended family.
Oh, wow.
And high assets or high assets. Both of those are two factors that very commonly will lead to litigation. So if you have a rock solid plan, both of the married people and the married couple have a rock solid plan, which I will give them. The chances of the families ending up litigating for years and years and years and spending all the money they're going to inherit on litigation is diminished greatly. And it's not cheap, But you do have to think of it in terms of what am I protecting here?
Yeah.
If you've got $2 million in assets, a few $1,000s for an estate plan is cheap.
Comparatively to what could possibly happen.
Exactly.
I don't know a whole lot about probate because I'm not an attorney. All I know is that word is a bad word.
It's not as scary as you would think.
No? Okay.
It's most of what I do is uncontested. Which if it's uncontested, it's just a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of nitpicky. Got to do this by this date, this by this date. That's why, usually why you get an attorney, because we know that stuff, and we kind of have a system down, and we have a tickler system. It's actually electronic now, but
yeah.
So we don't miss any dates. I have had very few cases that have gone to litigation in a probate setting. I won't get into the details, but
right.
that is a horrible situation to be in, because it basically tears families apart, and it's over money, and a lot of times it's over poorly drafted documents.
Oh,
yeah, because if you want the documents to be as clear as humanly possible, and ours are, and that's why we invest in Wealth Counsel. That's why we spend as much money as we do to be a member of Wealth Counsel, to ensure that our clients aren't going to be the ones whose families are being torn apart and fighting with each other in probate court. Because we all want to rest in peace when it's our time.
Yes, and have our families be at peace as well, which is obviously a very important part of that. Okay, so we have real estate, we have estate planning. Do we do anything else?
Well, I love to do special needs life planning.
Okay.
I think I mentioned one of my kids has special needs, and it's just close to my heart.
Yeah.
It's super important for those parents to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a kid with special needs who is not going to be able to take care of themselves. You need to start planning and saving and doing that early. And kind of a dichotomy with special needs families is a lot of them don't have a lot of extra money to save and put into a trust. But I'm here to tell you, I've been there myself, and there are things that you could do, strategies you could implement that can fund a special needs trust, even if you don't have a lot of extra money to put aside right now.
Yeah.
Just one quick one is you can have life insurance that pays into the special needs trust when you die. So the younger you start, the better with that.
Okay. I think that anybody that has a special needs child or a niece or a nephew or a grandson or granddaughter needs to contact you immediately.
Yeah. And some people, like I talked to someone the other day, and their child wasn't getting government benefits, so they didn't. Part of the special needs trust is they have to be getting government benefits to get it approved. They weren't getting government benefits right now, so but they may in the future. So I said, you don't need one right now, because the state does have to approve those, and they won't approve them if the child is not already getting benefits. But that doesn't keep you from starting to contribute to an account every month. $10 a month. I mean, anybody pretty much can afford $10 a month. Just get it started. And the earlier you start, the better, because in addition to all the other benefits, the peace of mind and having a plan in place, the time value of money is incredible. So if you've got a special needs member in your family that you start putting money away when they're an infant, or usually a lot of people don't know that they have special needs until they're 3 or 4 years old,
right? Or
maybe 5 or 6. But if you start when they're young, and even if eventually they do need a special needs trust, you just take that money and put it in the trust, and it'll be there. If you start that young, if they live to be 50, 60, 70 years old, it's exponential. I can't do numbers in my head, but I have looked at the numbers before, and it's just incredible how fast it grows.
Okay. So what is the best way for people to contact you?
You can go to my website, which is, Forsyth-law.com. You can call the office at 770-781-2576. I probably won't put my personal cell out there publicly.
No.
But my clients that already have that do work with me, they do have my cell number, so they can text me and call me. With what I do, usually they're not needing to call me in the middle of the night. So I'd say, I do have business hours. I do have time when I'm with my family, but I do give out a cell number. I feel like because I want them to be able to reach me if they're worried about something.
Yeah.
like I said, with estate planning, generally it's not like an urgency involved. Usually I have been to hospice in an urgent situation. I have been to the hospital in urgent situations. I don't like doing that. It's a very, very hard day for me, just emotionally. So let's get the planning in ahead of time so we don't have to deal with that.
Absolutely. We do not want to deal with that.
No.
Well, Maria Keller, with the Forsyth Law Firm, it was incredible to get this time to talk to you. And do you have anything else to end our show with?
No, I just appreciate you so much, and I'm really excited about this podcast. I hope you ask me back.
Yeah, absolutely. Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on. Appreciate it.
Sure.